Welcome back to the Roadside Rescue YouTube channel. I'm Ernest, and today we've got some maintenance on this truck. Oh, I forgot I got stuff for the diff as well, so I may do diff fluid. I'm going to do an oil change and a brake job and an oil change on my wife's car. And it takes so much effort to get around to working on my own vehicles, but stuff that's got to get done. I was going to get an alignment. I got new tires on this truck, just getting it all ready. It's got transmission issues as well. Whenever I'm in neutral on the transmission and it's spinning with the engine, you can just hear it knocking tuck, 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 inside the transmission. So that's the only other thing to do on this truck. But before I got the alignment done, I needed to get new wheel bearings up front. It's got a hub assembly, the brake rotor's built into the hub assembly, so I've got to replace the bearings with that. I don't have to, but I'm going to. We'll pack the bearings, put new bearings in it, so I don't have to worry about it. And just one step at a time. So I think I'm going to start here in the rear, and here we go. All right, get this stuff going here. I've got some wheel chocks under here. I'll use this cool Pro Lift here and chalk up that front. Got my jack. We'll start on the rear here. All right, here we are. We're gonna get started here. I'm gonna go ahead and take this tire off. I've got a jack stand under the axle here, and the other opposite corner's chalked up. 19mm bolts here. I'm not gonna go through like a tutorial, just kind of give a little look through here. So we'll go ahead and take this off and get started. Okay. All right, like I said, I got new tires. I forgot to tell them that I wanted the pinstripe on the outside, so they ended up on the inside, but I didn't specify, so I'm not gonna cause a fuss over that. And actually quite a bit of dust in here. These were recently replaced, and there's quite a bit of dust on that, so maybe I just knocked that loose with that impact there. But the brakes in the front are my main concern, but I said if I'm gonna do them, I'm just gonna do them all the way around and replace these drums back here. I just take the box from the old rotors or drums and put it underneath there for when I clean it. It just drips into this. With the brake clean, you'll kind of see it doesn't get wet or run anywhere. It'll just drip on there, and then that black stuff will stay on there. So make sure your parking brake isn't set. Actually, there's a lot of pad left on those. I think these have been done recently, because the hardware looks new as well, so maybe I won't do these rear brakes. Okay, never mind. We're doing just front brakes. These are like in perfect condition. Some dust in there. I'll clean them up. I'll just clean this side up. I may clean up the other side, but yeah, that's hardly any wear in there either. Yeah, that hardware is brand new. Look at it. So the front brakes may be new as well. This is a detail I missed from the seller of this truck when I bought it. But if the front ones are bad, I know those rotors are warped, so I'm going to be replacing that stuff anyways, even if those pads are good. Hold your breath. Strong. All right, well, we'll put this tire back on and move up to the front. All right, moving up to the front here, I'm gonna get a little bit chalky. My kids made a chalk puddle with some water and some chalk here, but I'll try and keep my leg out of that. I've got 3 suits now, so I'll just wash it if it gets all dirty after this job. I think the tire shop that put these tires on over-torqued my lug nuts, so let's find out. Because that felt way too tight. Okay, here we go, torque meter. Love this torque meter. I use it rather than a torque wrench now. But if we do this, we should be able to measure the maximum torque put on it required to take it off. Let's see if I can see enough to do it. I'm gonna set the star down. Goodness, yep, that's over torqued. Man, does nobody use even torque sticks anymore? 143 foot-pounds, and it always takes less torque to come off than it does to put on. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. It's like about a 90 foot-pound torque on these lug nuts, man. That's ridiculous. All right, let's try these other ones. That makes me upset. 140, 114.2. Not as bad. Come on, 126. Yeah, man, that makes me upset. Over torque my lug nuts, man. Last one here. This one's all marred up too. They bent up this lug nut here. Oh, let's go ahead, clear that out. Come on, goodness. 157 so far. 161. That's ridiculous. That makes me upset, man. What can nobody use a torque wrench? At least torque sticks. I'm like all right with torque sticks. If you use torque sticks, that's all right. You know, I don't care. If you're just gonna run them down with an impact, that's ridiculous. Don't take my word for it. Right there says 161.8. What was that? Yeah, 161.8. It's ridiculous, man. It's gonna be a job and a half here. Oh, it's not too bad. It's just packing the bearings and everything, getting them tightened down. And I know they knew I was a mechanic as well because my sticker was on the side of the truck, and they're like, nice tool set and everything. They're like, this is why we don't want to do an alignment just yet, which I'm glad they did, because I've had a shop do that before. They've done the alignment and then they've told me they couldn't do it. I'm like, well, what are you charging me for then? But I'm glad they told me beforehand. But they're like, yeah, so we're just letting you know we can get you a quote, but we're assuming you're going to do all the work yourself. I'm like, yep. And goodness, I don't know if they thought I wouldn't check that or notice, but I noticed. All right, yeah, pretty new pads. These rotors haven't been replaced, so I'm assuming the last person who did the brakes just did the pads. We'll put new pads on them anyways, just so I don't have to deal with it. I know they're new, and a new rotor, but it's warped. It's not got too much wear on it, but it shakes that steering wheel when I brake. So let's get this part. I've actually got these super weird old pins that hold the caliper in place. I don't like these. I'd much rather have a bolt in there that I know I can tighten down and not have to worry about the one in the back. I mean, the one in the front here is kind of backing out as well, but the one in the back is backed out a bit too. Let me put this other camera on it so you can see. You can see how that pin's backed out a bit more than it should have. And basically you just press these out with a little punch. So we'll do that. We take this cap off here, the axle nut off, and this whole hub's going to come out here in a second. There you have it. You just knock it out. In my opinion, ridiculous idea to have something like that. Obviously they don't use them anymore for a reason, but it's not a good idea in my opinion. Get those under there, get them started. There they go. I mean, no, I was gonna say it's easier, but it's not even easier. You gotta tap them out. There's another one. Yeah, just not a good idea in my opinion. So just enough to slide this out here. There it goes. Just set this. You can use like a wire tie to set this up there. I just kind of twist them in a little configuration like that, so they stay up there by themselves. Make sure you get this pad out. I mean, it's not a big deal, but don't forget it and have to fight with it later. Yeah, not bad. A little hot. There's mountains out here, so if people don't know how to drive, they'll overheat their brakes, which is why rotors get warped a lot out here, but can't say if that's the problem or not. Clean this up a bit here so I can see what I'm doing. All right, now I've got this gasket scraper. I'll probably use this. Hopefully I don't mess up the edge there, but it should be fine. In fact, Now that I've cleaned it up, I can see a little gap here where somebody tapped it off last time, so maybe I'll just start there with this cold punch. Not liking that too much. Let's do this. I can get a bigger screwdriver now. Maybe one of these chisels will work. Yeah, that's what you don't want to do, is drop that and get grease on everything, but not the end of the world. I think, oh, I may have a couple pair of rubber gloves I can salvage out of the other truck, but this is a rubber gloves job, man, to pack these bearings, and you'll see why in a second. But like I mentioned in my last video, nobody has cheap rubber gloves anywhere, so I've just been kind of going with those reusable gloves. Anyways, I'll get some rubber ones. I think I've got a few laying in a trash bin in there. See if any of those work. If these get pretty old, these are like real latex. When they get old, they tend to kind of crackle and rip. I think some of these might be reusable here. And it's greasy, maybe that oil helped prolong its life. Let's see. Here we go. This will be one of those videos where I just do something on one side and you can just assume I did the exact same thing on the other side. No sense in watching it twice. We'll get this cotter pin out here. And the weird news is this looks pretty new in here, this grease and stuff. So it's obviously been opened up before. Well, it makes me question if these front rotors were replaced recently as well. And maybe they just got warped in a short amount of time. Or I don't know why this all would have been taken apart. Maybe there was a bad wheel bearing somebody diagnosed and didn't replace the rotor, but it looks, this grease will turn dark over time. It's still pretty red. So there's the cotter pin. Keep everything together there. It's a job to use a lot of paper towels on, so you can usually get these off by hand. You may have a little tab on one of those bent. Just keeping it in there though. Let's see if we got the right size socket here. Close enough to grab it. I guess that was the right size. I'm gonna clean all that up, but yeah, that shouldn't quite be hand loose there, but sometimes it is. It's not a big deal, but that's where when you get into trouble where people think you have a bad wheel bearing. Technically these are wheel bearings, they're hub bearings. Yeah, the same thing. Sometimes all I have to do is tighten them down, but I know this rotor's warped, so I'm going to replace them anyways. But they'll be hand loose like that, so you can actually wiggle the rotor or the wheel whenever you feel it. That's why they didn't want to do an alignment. Oh, actually they said tie rod as well. It's an old style tie rod. I don't like those either, but that probably looks fine. Yeah, I think they said driver's side anyways. There's some grease on it, but it's a greasable joint there, the old kind that were serviceable, so I doubt that's leaking, and I'm probably not going to worry about it because I can't even move it by hand. So get this wheel nut out of here, this axle nut. Again, we're going to clean all this up, but use a lot of paper towels here. Off comes this, and I'm not going to reuse those bearings there. Do that washer, and that's that. And here, all we need to do is just clean this up real well before we reinstall the new hub assembly, get those bearings all packed up, and I'll show you how to do that. Check out this new hub rotor here and make sure we have everything we need. Don't have to take any parts off that old one. So they come with everything. They should come with everything except the bearings. It's got a race in there. I thought it was a bearing for a second. I was like, never mind, it came with bearings. But heavy, nice and heavy. Hurt your wrist. But that's that. It's got its races. It's supposed to have those. You can see them in there. They look like they're pressed in evenly. I'll just double check those. Make sure I don't need to tap them in evenly. And we'll get this started here. We're going to pack these bearings first. Make sure my hands are nice and clean first. Okay, make sure we got two different.
What? I'm supposed to go to the milk.
Make sure we got both different bearings there. The numbers are different. Set 6 and set 2. larger one goes in the back. You can open this. There we go. Just don't want to, yeah, keep this together. You don't want to knock that apart. Same thing with this one. Yeah, I'd almost, if I knocked one of these apart, I'd almost just go get a new one rather than try putting this together and worry about it being contaminated. So, got them both right side up there. Just be careful with them on my leg here. Let's pack them. It's not my favorite job in the world right here, but it's got to be done. All right. So, messy time. Get a bunch of grease, put it on your palm. Good enough. Grab this and just start pushing it in. Working that grease in, you can see it starts coming through the bearing there. So you want it to get coming through all the way around. Some guys are real good at this. I'm just good enough to get it done. All right, get this all covered in grease now that we've got it packed, and slide her on there. In the right direction would be nice. There we go. And let's do this other one, kind of collect all this grease here. This is a 2-pair of jobs job. You're gonna need 2 pairs of gloves job. You're gonna need 2 pairs of gloves to do both sides, because ain't no reason in these gloves when you're done packing a bearing. Just throw them away. Starts coming through. Grab them. Everything here. All right, like I said, some guys are good at this. I just get it done, but that's pretty much done there. And we'll get this hub on. So I'm gonna set this down where it's not gonna get dirty real quick. Take my gloves off, clean this rotor hub, and then we'll put that on. So see if I can maybe just use my teeth. Yep. Greasy gloves, let's get rid of those. All right, you don't want to be stingy with like your rags and stuff on this job. So just get a new rag for everything. I'm gonna clean this rotor, slide it on, and then we'll get that next side clean and next bearing in. All right, well, you got to lose the outer cap, this outer part of the bearing here, the race. Since these already have a race in them, you just need the bearing part. So get that on there. I was wondering why for a minute why that didn't want to go on well. And that's it. Just do that. Let's see if I can just get that to sit there so I can clean up this hardware. And my hands are all greasy. It's gotta have like 5 pairs of gloves or just be willing to get your hands greasy. So one of those jobs. Okay, get that old grease off. There's plenty of new fresh grease in there. This old stuff's not bad for it anyways, as long as it's clean. All right, then we'll get this back together and then it'll be the same on the other side. All right, so I always just use a little brass mallet on these, on anything that doesn't need to get marred up. So it's pretty gentle, a lot gentler than a steel hammer, and we'll just tap that in place. My other battery died, but I just add a little bit extra grease to this cap here, just for good measure. And when I say just a little bit, just like a finger scoop so that it has a bit of extra grease in there. So we're just going back together on this other side here. And before anybody says anything, I've just realized I was missing a seal on that other side. I'm gonna order those in and I'll just put them on after, but basically it's just a seal on the back side here. Let me show you this seal. Don't know how I missed it. I thought it had everything on that other hub, but I just completely overlooked it. So not the end of the world. You don't want to drive around for a while like that, but I'm going to drive this around, probably pick them up at the store later this afternoon, come back and put that back on. I'm looking for washer though. There was a washer on that other side. I don't see one, and I don't specifically remember taking one off on this side. So that's a little concerning, but there should be a little washer in here somewhere. So I'm gonna look around for a bit and see if I can find that. All right, well, I found that washer. For some reason I had stuck it in a box over here, a trash box. Get that on there all the way. And let's put these brakes on, clean the front side of this rotor / hub, and be done over here. I'm gonna have to come back in a few days and put that seal on, but whatever. All right, so we'll push this caliper back in, this piston. Let's use our tool here. There's a piece of material missing out of it, but apparently it still works. Those pads were pretty new, but no sense in reusing those. The back side of this rotor actually on the passenger side was a lot worse. This may be the one that was warped. So we'll get those new pads in, get these cleaned up. These weird old style pins here. And get these put back in. All right, get these lubed up just a bit and put back on the back here. Goes on the caliper. It's not the worst style brakes to change. I just don't think it's a very good style. Just the way it is. So, oh, perfect first try. Go. Let's put these pins in. Lubricate them just a bit. They do have locks on them, so you don't have to worry about them coming back out. Really, still just not the best design though. This one started as well. Tap them in. Make sure you pump the brakes before you drive off, but that wheel's ready to go back on. We'll torque it down real quick. That's a job well done. All right, these brakes feel like a million times better. Here we go, hit the brakes. Oh, no surging, no shaking, no nothing. I just picked up those seals from AutoZone, so I'll put those on probably tomorrow. I'm gonna do the oil change tomorrow. I'm just a little worn out from the sun right now. And I don't think I have anything in the afternoon tomorrow, so I'll probably just do it then.